how to push from stage 90 all the way to 100 with our favorite spin to win variant of the Barbarian. So we're talking about Whirlwind Barbarian, how to reach the highest levels possible for Nightmare Dungeons. How are we going to do it? If you caught my video a few days ago of the world first person ever to do it with the Whirlwind Barbarian, it was Jungbo, a Korean player, and it was crazy impressive. Now, let's just clarify something. I saw a lot of people saying that Rob was the first person to do this, which, I mean, they're clearly uninformed and they didn't even watch the video all the way through. Within the first 10 seconds of the video of Rob clearing the 100 on his Whirlwind Barb, he said this was in the early access where Ghors was bugged and it was critting for 1 billion damage. If you can't clear a 100 when you're critting 1 billion damage from our Ghors gloves, then I don't know what to say. I really don't know what to say. So the first clear was in fact from the video that I previewed. There's no disputing that. But one of the highly requested comments was, can we get this in a build planner? Can we get this all in front of us where we can look to it, reference it, and possibly min-max on top of that, which was done. That's what this video's for. Let's get it. What up, team? It is MurderInc. We're talking about the high pushing variant of Whirlwind Barbarian. Now, let's just clarify something really quickly here. If you're still farming, you don't have perfect gear, you're still fishing for those aspects, you're not even level 100, you don't want this build. This is a strictly pushing variant. This isn't the best variant. If you want the best, you would go for the videos I labeled as the best, whether it's the bleed version, the no bleed mace version, and then the one-handed version. Those three will be the three best based on what type of weapon you have that you do want to use. But for people who want to push even higher with Whirlwind, that's what we're going to talk about here. So huge shout out first of all to Vex, member of the Discord, who put this together. I was lazy and did not do it, so he copied this verbatim from what Jungbo had on his Whirlwind Barbarian. And here we have it in a planner. I will have this in the description for sure, so don't worry about that. So Numbing Wrath, Iron Blood. This was translated to Iron Clad, I believe, when I was doing it, so I did mess that up. Ripping, Iron Warrior, Ghostwalker, Retribution, Dire Whirlwind. All this stuff is pretty straightforward, nothing too crazy here. The interesting thing was in fact Kick here. He does have the axe technique. Like I said, I'll link this below here. So we took a pretty common Whirlwind tree. Surprisingly, he went with Lunging Strike instead of Flay. Why is Flay usually the preferred? Because you get a ton of damage reduction here. He also took Challenging Shout, and I know there have been a ton of comments. I was wondering why he didn't take the bonus maximum health, and people were explaining to me that when you use this, it's bugged to where it completely clears your Fortify. However, you instantly fill your Fortify with Numbing Wrath, so that's not a really good point because you always use Challenging Shout first. So you're going to use Challenging Shout, clear your Fortify, follow that up with Rallying Cry on top of War Cry, and you are back to full rage, and your Numbing Wrath completely fills up your health bar, and then you get the extra 20%. So that's still, in my opinion, going to be better, but we want to talk about the main thing here. He elected not to use Guttural Yell. Now, there were quite a few people in the comments who were saying he didn't take Guttural Yell because it's not that good. He took, let me find the node really quickly. Here we are. He took Defensive Stance over Guttural Yell. Now, again, huge shout out to the people in my Discord. I'll call them up by name, but if you're curious about this, if you're into theory crafting and kind of big news, I want to save this for a separate video, but this is important. An EHP, which is basically going to be like a how to survive, survivability check, calculator is going to be released. Really exciting, awesome theory crafters in this Discord. I'm lucky to have them, and I found great people. As you can see, we have Ruby versus Sapphire. All of the data here. Nunu, who's been incredible. Lots of fury reduction things, talking about buckets. He hates when people say the word buckets because it's very misleading. But as you can see from the bottom here, Aiden has a Guttural Yell versus Defensive Stance thread. So this is really important to go over here. So there's been some questions how it's worked because I brought it up in the video. And Guttural Yell is a debuff that we apply to a monster, right? So we're applying it to the monster when we use our shouts here, making the incoming damage we have lower reduced. The process happens before a damage reduction formula applies. What does this mean? Guttural Yell is the strongest single source of damage reduction available to barbarians outside of challenging shout. So challenging shout should be used first, then the other shouts to proc Guttural Yell, and the node's effectiveness grows exponentially the more damage reduction you have, becoming more effective the more damage reduction you stack. So this is opposed to defensive stance, which was taken in the 100 clear, and it's just another form of damage reduction while fortified. And if you're curious about the data while testing, there is a separate spreadsheet showing everything they did, the iterations, and the clear different numbers. Just so, I mean, first of all, you should always question everything that you hear, because there are formulas on armor, on resistances on Reddit that we've had people in this Discord go over, and they're wrong. The math is off on them, and people are following them. It probably won't harm them too much because the basic idea is okay, but they're just wrong. So it's really important that you question everything. Look for the data sheets like I just showed you here. There should be a Google document showing iterations, what targets they were fighting, the stats of the targets, and all of that good stuff. So like I said, there's going to be a link in the description, as well as this planner to my Discord if you're curious and want to check out that theory crafting session and you want to see the incoming EHP calculator, which is going to let you pick pieces and figure out which ones are going to be the best to help you survive the most here. So this planner's here, outside of everything we went over, it's pretty straightforward. He is using a two-handed mace, which is kind of the key here. If you want to use one-handed weapons, I don't know what's going to be better. I really don't. It's kind of a hard swing between the two. The one-handed weapons, the Magnum Opus specifically, has insane damage scaling. Now the thing is, and if you watch the run, and as you can see from the run, you don't want to fight elites ever unless you get a GG shrine. And then if you get a shrine, you're golden. The artillery shrine, conduit shrine, you use those to blow up the elites because Whirlwind does not have enough burst damage as of right now to be able to dismantle elites, especially if they have fire aura around them. Poison, you're just going to get shredded like pretty much every single class, unless you can one-shot them. So kick, the clear benefit to kick here is going to be an extra 4-second vulnerable. This is very important. This is needed to get through these higher tiers because vulnerability is going to be falling off from exploit after 3 seconds, and there is no Whirlwind build in the game that can kill something within 3 seconds. Now I have a theory, I'm going to talk about it briefly as we show the gear from Vex that he compiled nicely for us here. I have a theory that Ghors is actually going to be one of the keys to pushing Nightmare 100s. Haven't tested it yet, but based on the run I saw that's already been done for Nightmare 100, it's much more realistic to have a run where we can actually kill elites by gathering up mobs, getting very close to our 100 cap limit of spins where we're storing our kind of burst here, moving to an elite pack, proccing the vulnerability on as like a first hit thing, which is what our exploit glyph does, then releasing it and just one-shotting the elite in the Nightmare dungeon. I saw 12 million damage crits at level 84 when I was playing with Ghors, and that was definitely nowhere near as optimized as we have it today here. Let's look at the gear really quick. We have Numbing Wrath, and these are the stats you want to go for. I know people ask all the time, what stats do we want? Vex has fantastic gear, so this is what you want to look for sure. We have all stats because it helps with the Paragon, and we'll go over the Paragon next for sure. The necklace you can see here, it's, oh, that was way too much of a zoom. Fury cost, cooldown, counter offensive, very strong, and defensive skills. We went over the imprints already here, but save this snippet, take a look at it, and you will be able to see exactly what type of stats you're going to be aiming for if you want to reach those high limits of pushing all the way to Nightmare 100. Now, the final thing we're going to talk about is going to be this guy's Paragon board, because boy is it something special. So what he did is, he has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 boards. A lot of people are talking about 7 boards. I've never personally ran 7 boards because I don't think there's too much value in a 7th glyph. They're just not that good here. So one thing that confused many people, and I'm going to go over that right now, is why did he take, let's find it, this right here, Destroyer. So it's a two-handed mace Whirlwind build. That right now is confirmed to have cleared a 100 Nightmare dungeon, so it's typically viewed as the best version. Although, like I said, I'm pretty convinced that one-handed with the Magnum Opus can also do this, possibly even more efficiently because of the high damage output and the faster hits it will have. So why is he taking this note here? He's not using a slashing weapon. It's for the vulnerable damage, so I just want to get that out of the way really quickly here. We have 5, 10, and then 20% increased vulnerable damage. Vulnerable damage is multiplicative, which is the highest form of scaling you can get added to your damage, so we don't care about the 20% slashing damage, we just care about the total 20% vulnerable damage, and we're willing to spend these points to get there because we're not going for that 7th glyph. So as far as the glyphs he's using, it's going to be easy to tell, territorial. We then have martial here, followed by wrath. I'm not too sure about his warbringer choice because the amount of time it takes for you to spend 75 fury, and I do want to give a huge shout out to Beatdropper because I will show you something really quickly. So here we are, and once again a huge shout out to Beatdropper here. If you want to just take a look at this really quickly, warbringer procs off of every 2 seconds at best. So Warbinger procs off every 2 seconds at best, so you can see the math here. Warbinger gives 1200 fortify every 2 seconds or 600 fortify every single second. Now just think about the amount of health you have really quickly. Numbing Wrath would give 600 if you overcap, 17 fury per second, easy to test, and I did test this and it takes, like we saw in a previous video, about 2 seconds to fully fill up a 12,000 health fortify bar. 2 seconds. So just think about the amount of overcap you're doing with Numbing Wrath compared to Warbinger, which is 1200 every 2 seconds here. So I'm not sure if I'm completely behind him taking this here. I don't know if he was following another guide or if this proved to be beneficial. Maybe it's because he can be spending raid while spinning away from something dangerous, and that's still generating him a fortify. I'm not really sure. I have no way to communicate with him because I do not speak Korean, unfortunately, so I have no idea. But maybe there is some value to the Warbringer legendary note here. So for the glyph in this tree, we have Wrath, of course, crazy damage scaling. We have Might, multiplicative two-handed weapon damage. We have Undaunted, more damage reduction, which is another reason why this guy's stacking so much armor and damage reduction. Had he had taken Guttural Yell, and it's surprising he never tested this, his damage taken would have decreased by so much. It's kind of crazy. So then we have the Slayer note here. Guess he was just kind of nitpicking armor as best as he could. Unfortunately, he could not afford these three, but Havoc as well for the crit damage. You gotta have it. And the final glyph, of course, is going to be Exploit. So this is the Paragon board for, as it's called here, the High Nightmare Whirlwind build. And if this changes, and you can see with very good job by Vex here, if this changes for any reason, I will have Vex edit this, whether it's a seasonal affix or whatever. If any of this goes outdated, there will be something in this note section, since I am going to post it to this video here, to keep you guys 100% informed on everything here. So that's the breakdown of this video. That's the rundown. If you do want to push up to Nightmare 100, this is the build to get it done as of right now. No one's come close. No one's has a better iteration of this besides this slightly fine-tuned one. The only changes I would probably make from this, since this is just a carbon copy of the actual first clears build, is, like we mentioned from the testing here, you would in fact take Guttural Yell. Where would you take the 3 points out of? Defensive stance. The damage reduction you would get with this is just going to be out of this world. So before wrapping up the video, the final tip I would give you if you are going to push, make sure you get the right map. I know it can be frustrating pushing very high. I've done it myself. I've gotten into the 90s with Hammer the Ancients. It's a rather clunky build, which is why I tend to gravitate more towards Whirlwind like forever, and I don't think that's going to change anytime soon unless I do something, or I'm probably going to actually head to Hammer the Ancients to see if I can find something that feels really good outside of the current iteration, because it just doesn't. So I'm going to attempt to do that. But if you want to do this, one of the key things to keep in mind, I did a really good showcase of this tactic in the video of my current favorite build that costs way too much gold to make. As soon as your exploit window is done, even if you have something like Kick, if Kick's on cooldown, Kick sometimes doesn't hit every target. If there's a target in front of you that you're trying to kill, Invulnerable isn't applied to it, and you have no cooldowns available to apply it, move on to the next pack. Kite it with you, move on. You're going to be doing negative damage to a target that is not currently vulnerable, so it's important to chain from pack to pack to pack, making sure you're getting your burst windows in with the exploit window or with the pressure point proc, which is rather low, I get it, but Kick, adding that to your arsenal is a massive gain for you. So with that being said, that's going to conclude this video. All of this information that we've gone over here today is in my Discord, so if you do want that, once again, head to the link below. If you need help, there's going to be a Help My Build channel here where you can see there's tons of people that have already asked for help. Very, very simple here. You just go to the pinned comment, which we've had tons of people posting. You pretty much post your build, your stats, and what you think is wrong with your build, and you're going to get an answer from me or one of the many really smart players we have in this Discord to help you fine-tune any type of possible questions you might have about your build. So that about wraps it up. If you enjoyed this content, smash that like button, subscribe, hit that notification bell so you don't miss my next upload, and I'll see you all in the next video.